As you can see, it's winter here in New England, and you might be able to tell from the color of my nose that it's also cold season. I've had a stuffy nose along with watery eyes for a few days now. You know, over the years I've been given different advice on how to treat the common cold. For example, I've been told that hot tea with honey or lemon works well. I was once also given a recipe for homemade chicken soup. Of course, my grandmother believed that eating garlic was the best way to prevent the cold in the first place, but I never could follow that advice because garlic makes your breath smell. What have you been told? How do you treat the common cold?
Were you listening closely? Did you hear examples of the passive? If you did listen closely, then you likely heard these examples. Over the years, I've been given different advice on how to treat the common cold. I've been told that hot tea with honey or lemon works well. I was once also given a recipe for homemade chicken soup. If you watch the first lesson on the passive, you'll remember that we make the passive voice with the form of be plus the past participle. For example, I was given a recipe. Our form of be here is was. Given is our past participle. Now if you want to name who performed the action, we use a by phrase. For example, I was given a recipe by a kind neighbor. Now remember, when we make the passive, we make it with the help of transitive verbs. Transitive verbs take objects. Consider this active sentence. A kind neighbor gave a recipe to me. Give is your transitive verb. What are you giving? A recipe. So let's take a recipe and make that the subject of our passive sentence. A recipe was given to me by a kind neighbor. But wait a second, you say, that's not exactly the sentence that I originally said, was it? No. That's because we can make two different passive sentences here. Look at the first. A recipe was given to me by a kind neighbor. And the second, I was given a recipe by a kind neighbor. Both sentences are passive, but the focus is different. We can focus on the recipe, or we can focus on me, the person who received the recipe. Why is there a choice? Because the original active sentence had two different objects. Remember, in English we can talk about direct and indirect objects. Let's look again at the active sentence. A kind neighbor gave me a recipe. We could also say, a kind neighbor gave a recipe to me. Now it's the second sentence that makes it a little more clear, because here we can see that a recipe is the direct object and me is the indirect object. It follows the preposition to. Taking the direct object, recipe, and making that the subject, our sentence becomes, a recipe was given to me by a kind neighbor. And note, when the direct object becomes the subject of the passive sentence, we keep the preposition to. We can also then take me, the indirect object, and make that the subject of a passive sentence. I was given a recipe by a kind neighbor. Now all of these sentences are correct, and all of these sentences communicate the same basic information, but they have a different focus. Do you want to focus on who gave the recipe? Do you want to focus on what the neighbor gave? Do you want to focus on who got the recipe?
Let's try a couple exercises.
Exercise 1. Change each sentence from active to passive. Make the indirect object of the first sentence the subject in the new sentence. Use a by phrase only if necessary. Example. Over the years, people have given me different advice. What's the indirect object? Me. So using that as the subject in your passive sentence, we have, over the years, I've been given different advice. Do we really need to use a by phrase? No, it's not necessary. Number 1. Companies offered several different jobs to Daniel. Answer: Daniel was offered several different jobs. 2. In that restaurant, uniformed waiters serve customers gourmet meals. Answer: In that restaurant, customers are served gourmet meals by uniformed waiters. 3. The best tutors taught Elizabeth French and Italian. Answer: Elizabeth was taught French and Italian by the best tutors. 4. They will show the jury new evidence tomorrow. Answer: The jury will be shown new evidence tomorrow. 5. In America, patients sometimes send gift baskets to their doctors. Answer: In America, doctors are sometimes sent gift baskets by their patients. Exercise 2. Read the text. Decide which statement is more appropriate. For example, study the sentences below, and then I'll tell you the best answer. Answer: The employees here are happy. They are paid good money. The first choice is the correct answer, because the employees are our focus. 1. Again, study the sentences, read it both ways, and then I'll tell you the best answer. Answer: Don't share anything personal with Julia. She tells everyone your secrets. Why is that the best answer? Because we're focusing on Julia and what she does. 2. Answer: It was time to announce the contest winner. Mr. Johnson was handed the envelope. He opened it, cleared his throat, and read the name. Why is that the correct answer? Because it's not important who handed Mr. Johnson the envelope, so why focus on the word someone? 3. Answer: The police are searching for the criminals. A cash award will be given to any person who helps find them. Now in this one, both sentences could work. It's not incorrect to choose that first sentence. But personally, I feel it makes more sense to focus on the cash award. The police are willing to offer money to get help, so I would focus on cash award, not any person.
That's all for now. Thanks for watching and stay healthy.